Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I wanted to talk about outdated gear that you should no longer buy and why. So as we all know, every year some sort of gear kind of gets outdated and become irrelevant, but some of these I would consider beginner traps and stuff that, you know, people will see and you shouldn't just get it anymore. So let's talk about it. So I have a list of a few things that I wanted to make sure you guys don't fall into the beginner trap of. And in no particular order, there's probably a bunch of them, but I picked out the notable ones. The first one we're going to be talking about is Godr-Ayed Weapons. And the reason why we shouldn't buy or self-enhance Godr anymore is because the amount of black stars they give these days are, you know, well, 2 and a free Tett. And back in the day, people would go for the Godr weapons because they were a stepping stone from Tett to pen Blackstar. And this was when black stars were pre-nerfed and it actually took a lot of silver. And I guess starting out, you wouldn't have the pity system for enhancing. Then it was 40. And then they chopped it down to 20, and now it's currently at 15. Therefore, it's significantly easier to get a pen Blackstar these days versus, you know, going all the extra steps of the Godr route. And my advice to you guys is, if you're in the stage where you're just trying to get an extra pen Blackstar or something, what I would do is, honestly, I would just save and buy the pen straight up, because the amount of fail stacks you would have to use from going all the way from like try, Tett, and pen is stuff you could be using on, you know, Kzarka accessories and just literally anything else. So back in the day, Godr would be good to put you up into 1 or 2 extra AP brackets, but in 2025 it's just less relevant. You're just most likely going to be spending more silver getting it to pen than it really costs to just, you know, either tap it yourself on Blackstar or just straight up outright buying the Blackstar itself. So yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is down here in the armor section. So we have these things called Blackstar Armors, and the reason why you shouldn't buy these anymore is just it's not cost effective to use them. And the reason why Blackstar Armors came out back in the day was because a few years ago, I think this was maybe like 5-6 years ago, or no wait, yeah, probably around then, Capra stones were basically permanently sold out on the market. Now, on at least here on NA and I think EU, we have an abundance of Capra stones, and you could just get your armors to everything else up to pen, and Capra sit to 10 so you can convert to Fallen God. Back in the day, black stars were used to get to pen and skip the entire Capra stone route. That way you could just turn this in at pen with the flame to get a Fallen God. Now these days, if you're trying to enhance Blackstar, there's a reason why that people like these don't really sell, is just because it's significantly cheaper to outright buy a Fallen God, skip the entire grind and everything. So you see how there's one listed at 22 billion? That's at max too, which I'm pretty sure people will literally put that minimum to. So let's say 20 bill. And then Blackstar right here, someone's just trying to sell it for 30, and it's like less stats, not as relevant. And one way I would consider Pearl Abyss to make these relevant is literally glamour, or, you know, what is it called in World of Warcraft, like transmute, whatever, transmog. So you can basically use the skin or the outfit style on anything while using a different piece of gear. And a lot of MMOs have that. If you've had the gear once, you can like convert it into a glamour thing, so you could, if you like the style. But unfortunately in this game, that's not how it works. So the only reason to have it is just for its looks. But if you're going for actual stats, which I think everyone should do, it's easier to either buy the Fallen God, which is best in slot armor these days, or if you're making it yourself, chances are you could just convert it all cheaper. And yeah, so Blackstar, it wasn't really worth it back in the day either. It was only there because Capra Stones were sold out for almost a year many years ago. So yeah, a beginner trap. People see this and you're just like, oh, Pen Blackstar? Maybe the armor is good. It's really not. So avoid these at all costs. Don't enhance them. Maybe one day, if Pearl Abyss is like, maybe let's revive some older stuff, then they'll tweak it. But until then, skip it. The next thing I want to talk about is going back into the weapons, which I should have talked about before, was Offin gear. So many years ago, back when Blackstars were the primary weapon before Sovereign, there were two choices, Kzarka and Offin. Now, what is the difference for all of you who have no idea? Kzarka has a little bit less AP, but it has more accuracy. So look at the accuracy and the damage, or the AP. 200 accuracy, 122 to 126. This one has 126 to 128, but less accuracy. So for all the PvPers back in the day, accuracy is a little bit more important, and then the AP was used in gimmick stuff. So back in the day, there was a very small window where Offin was actually better, which was like the 261 bracket. And the moment you can hit 261 with Kzarka, this was completely irrelevant. So people were using this to push one extra AP bracket, which would give you a lot more AP than a Kzarka. But in 2025, that, like, you know, Black Stars are the standard, and for endgame players, it's Sovereign weapons. And so I would consider both of these out of date now, and Black Stars are more the norm, and Sovereign's the endgame. So people see these, and it's like, oh, red or orange and blue. So I think nowadays all these are used for is buying them at base and then doing the Black Star quest line to melt them and then turn them into a Black Star, and or a bunch of other things, but it's never to use. So yeah, often kind of outdated. So is Kzarka, but if you were to use one or the other, it would still be Kzarka, but they're both, you know, irrelevant now, and Black Star is standard. All right, I guess while we're still on the weapons, this one goes into the Awakening line, and it is Dragonslayer. So okay, so what's the history of Dragonslayer? Remember, before Black Stars came out, everyone was using Dandelions. Dandelions were considered best in slot Awakening weapons, and for all the people who couldn't get it, Dragonslayers are just, you know, one step below that. But it was, you know, back in the day, this was probably 5 years ago, maybe more actually, that people would use this. Even back in the day, I never considered this one good, but there are some people who, you know, just liked it for its looks, and even then, it was significantly cheaper. They don't sell, the stats are not even good. Even like in 2025, you shouldn't really be using Dandelions past seasons. So Pentuvala, which is seasonal gear, is the equivalent of a Tett Dandelion, right? And immediately after you get out of seasons, what you should be doing is putting a Black Star on your character. Whether you got it for free, or you got it from one of those quest rewards, or you turned your Tuvala deck into a Pen Black Star, yeah, you should be using one of these. So back in the day, if you remember it, Dragonslayers were the second option under Dandelion, and one day I really hope they just add like Transmog, Glamour, and all these other stuff that older players probably collected, and then you could just use it. But wishful thinking, maybe next year. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit more relevant on the side of things that people do like these days. And we're going to be going into life skill tools and gear. So, blue gear. As we all know, there are 4 or more types of, you know, tools and gear that you should get. As a beginner, magic tools are, you know, what people would use because they didn't have Logia or whatever. And then there's Logia as the entry level, blue is the mid tier, and Monos is best in slot for every one of us who do life skills nowadays. So one thing I would not recommend people doing is going into the blue tier route for anything. There's one exception to this. If you can buy it directly at pen for whatever price, preferably not maximum, this is slightly better because it gives 330 mastery versus a Tett Monos, which is 300. So nowadays in 2025, it's very easy to get a Monos. It's very easy to even enhance one. You don't need Cron Stones. You just kind of slam it. You need Cron Stones from Tett to pen, but anything under pen, you don't need it. And so this goes especially true for all the extra gear. Where is it? Like the other gear that they have, like all these blue tier stuff. Well, actually, yeah, all of these, don't get baited into buying the blue ones. What I would do is, if I were you and you're a beginner, you would go with Logia and then go directly into Monos. Monos is still currently relevant, and it is the best in slot. And the reason why I say this is because, let's say you got a pen. Let's say you bought it off the market, right? 330 mastery, that's good. However, at the end of the day, when your goal is to upgrade even further, this is considered a dead-end upgrade. And that means you can't do anything with it. The only thing you can do is sell it back to the market. So for beginners, you would be using this. I would probably not recommend enhancing these to pen either. Just get it to Tett, fairly easy, or buy one. And then when it's time to upgrade and you think, oh, how do I push my mastery even further? Go directly into Monos. That will, trust me when I say it'll save you time, and then later on, maybe a couple months from now, you're gonna want the best in slot anyway. So go from beginner to end game, not the entry level when it comes to life skill gear. And you're gonna save a lot of money on this as well. So that's definitely something I'd recommend. Skip to blue tier and go to end game. And now let's talk about gear that is, you know, something that's a lot of contested stuff, because Kzarka is now here and Deboreka's. So when it comes to all pieces, we'll talk about earrings in a second. There's really only two choices these days. You get Deboreka and then turn it into Kzarka, or you self-enhance Kzarka from base to, obviously, deck in the long run. So the reason why is there's less diversity in terms of accessories these days, simply because I think they actually did make a good system. So how does it work? When you get Kzarka, you get 6 extra crystal slots, 1 crystal slot per Kzarka accessory that you have on, right? And the way to get them is by converting Tett or pen Deboreka's for every piece into Kzarka, or self-make them. And what this allows you to do is your build diversity comes from all these crystals right here. So back in the day, we would have like, you know, accuracy accessories, DR accessories, your standard AP ones that we still use today, and all of these stuff, right? So they kind of made all the accessories minus Deboreka's right now kind of irrelevant, because they give you these crystals in here, and these are supposedly replacements of the accuracy accessories or whatever you're using. And so that makes everything irrelevant. And if you have yellow accessories, what you do is melt them down for Essence of Dawn, or, you know, what is it? These things. Then you could turn these into the crystals of whatever you want, or you can use it to enhance Kzarka. So I think the direction they're going is they want everyone to have accessories that are Kzarka, and then they're kind of phasing out yellow to your gear. So that's what I would recommend. When it comes to earrings, there's actually a few choices because earrings are always going to be your, what is it? Like flex spots. So Deboreka's, you know, same as always. You kind of, if you have a pen Debo or even a Tett, I would consider exchanging this for a Kzarka. However, there are people that use Distos, Vaha's Dawns, essentially the same thing, but different ways of obtaining them. So what is the difference? Pen Disto actually gives more AP than a Oct, or no, I think it's an Oct or Nav. Okay, hold on. Let me actually just look at this to confirm. Pen Disto, 21 AP, minus 5 DP. A Nav Kzarka, 20 AP, but you don't have the downside of, what is it, losing the DP on your accessories, right? So I talked about this in my gear progression video the other day, where I mentioned how pen distos are considered a dead-end upgrade, and we talked about that literally a few minutes ago. So eventually your goal is to get Kzarka, and pushing all of that will give you ultimately more AP into endgame. Whereas a pen disto, not only are you losing DP, which is very important at endgame. I know people say push 401 DP, right? With that said, when you grind higher end spots, you have to be locked in and not get hit for some of these spots, especially if you grind nighttime. Otherwise, you're getting chunked. And if you don't have that gear, well, if you're losing minus 10 on distos, that's not good. And so I'll make this comparison again. So you know how when you exchange Tett or pen Deboreka's and get your Kzarka, it gives you one red crystal right here, the Jin all AP, and so you could have 6 of them. So these actually make it so it's equal to the distos, but when you have distos, you go up into a new AP bracket. Essentially, that's why you're doing it, right? But you don't lose the minus 4 or 5 DP, which is really nice. So in terms of damage, if it does not put you into a new bracket, the extra AP crystals will equalize your damage. If it does put you into a new bracket, you might be doing slightly higher, but with the trade-off of -8 to -10 DP if you have 2 of them. So what I would recommend to all of you is just go to Kzarka route, slowly enhance it up to Nav and Deck, and you lose the DP penalty, and your gear will be ultimately higher. And if you have distos now, and you're thinking, what should I do with it? Eventually the price is going to crash on these. It's just a matter of time. What you could do is melt this down into Essence of Dawn, and then use those Essence of Dawn to enhance your Kzarka accessories. So in theory, let me show you how to actually do that in case you're wondering. So in every town, Old Moon Manager will sell this thing called a Dawn's Aura. It tells you how many Essence of Dawn that you'll be getting if you exchange at Tett or Pen. And for distos, it is 720 at Pen. That would be the equivalent of 72 billion, I believe. And if you're going to enhance your stuff by default, you're probably going to use it. And enhancing it is not that bad, to be honest. The hardest part is getting the Essence of Dawn. So when you melt it down, you're going to have it. So I think that's a good trade-off, to be honest, and something you guys should consider as well. So we talked about accessories, and especially earrings. Earrings is the most flexible spot. But aside from that, I think, you know, there are some people. Let's talk about Alchemy Stones. If you are not using these Alchemy Stones to enhance them, I guess that's what they're called, to eventually push into Splendid, what you should be going for is Vel. And never use a blue one. You see these, like, the blue bordered ones? Yeah, don't use them. Yellow is the way to go. And anything under Vel or Splendid, these are what you want. Vel is what most people have. Splendid is for the top 1% that got either RNG carried by enhancing it or just got lucky buying it. If you can get the Khan's Heart for, you know, significantly cheaper than it is, then it's a okay placeholder until you can get a Vel's. But the only reason everything else exists is to use it to enhance it, or whatever they call it, a polishing, I guess. Whatever this button does, recharge and growth, to enhance it to the next level. So yeah, a lot of these are bait. What you should do, try to get a Vel's and you'll be good to end game. And then once you're at the end game, it's all RNG if you get this or not, and hope for the best. For all of you life skillers out there, there are 3 routes that you could go as well. So Trent's tier, Resplendent, or Life one that you can get for free by doing the cons. I personally think that the Life ones is more diversity depending on what you're doing, so there's no right or wrong answer. But if you're using a lot of the other Spirit Stones and whatever, there are a right answer. So with that said, those are some of the notable items that I wanted to talk about. And try not to get baited by that. If you watch an older guide from anyone, I probably have some as well, that tell you to do that. Just know it's outdated, and those are some items to stay away from. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you guys come back. We got a bunch of other guide videos to talk about and update in the future. So whether you're a beginner or a veteran player, my videos my aim is to help everyone get better at this game. There's a lot of information and just stuff you just learn over time. So with that said, have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.